Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brian Hanley. Welcome back to Steelers Almighty. Appreciate everybody being in here. We got a good show for you guys today, man. First up, offensive line. It is getting better, ladies and gentlemen. Now, am I trying to act like it's the best offensive line in the world? No. But progress is progress, regardless of what we think of it. The offensive line is getting better. We'll talk about that. Um, the defense took a step back. Yeah, we'd seen some progress from that. Like we talked about, progress is progress, but when you take a step back, and the defense did that, and it was, I don't know, most would say, or some would say, it was kind of predictable. We'll break that down. Look, the Arthur Smith experiment, I think, is over. I think it is over. It's the second year. We're just not seeing just what we thought we were going to get from Arthur Smith, we're not getting. And it just isn't working. Whether it's players, him, regardless, I just think the experiment is over. And then you'll want to stick around for this, people, because look, I went on a rant about Mike Tomlin. He's not really the problem, in my opinion. I mean, he's part of it, but it's Art Rooney II. And we're going to talk about why the main issue with the Pittsburgh Steelers is Art Rooney II. So make sure you stick around for that. So again, you can find us here on youtube.com/Steelers Almighty. On all your social media platforms, you can find Steelers Almighty there. And if you prefer the audio version of this podcast, anywhere that you get a podcast, you can find us at Steelers Almighty. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in the comments section, and always hit that notification bell so you know exactly when Steelers Almighty content comes out. Let's get into this, ladies and gentlemen. The offensive line is starting to get better. Now is it baby steps? Yes, it is. Is it like going from an infant that's barely moving to an infant that's crawling to an infant that's now pulling itself up? Yes, it is all of that. But you are starting to see the steps that the offensive line is getting better. Look, in this Chicago game, let's just break it down person by person first. Broderick Jones. There's not a person on the internet that talks about the Pittsburgh Steelers that has been harder on Broderick Jones than me. I'm pretty confident in saying that. And the reason being is because you can see the potential, you see the athleticism, because when he does it right, it's incredible. The problem is you don't see it consistently enough. Now, I know we can talk about Pat Meyer until we're blue in the face. It isn't going to change anytime soon, I don't think. Pat Meyer's not a good coach. We get that. But Broderick Jones had the best game as a Pittsburgh Steeler against the Chicago Bears. He allowed zero pressures. He was dominant in the run game. He got outside, showed his athleticism off. And, Broderick Jones was really, really good. Now, I'll be the first person to tell you that, yes, the defensive end that he was going up against, do we even know what his name was? No. Was he very good? No. But that doesn't matter because I say it all the time. If you're going against somebody and you're that much better and you're supposed to dominate them, then dominate them. Now, I don't know that I would call Broderick's performance dominant, but I would call it very good. He played well. Isaac Seumalo. Look, at the beginning of the year, Isaac Seumalo just wasn't in shape, wasn't ready to play yet. He sat out training camp. He just wasn't ready to play. The man is ready to play now, ladies and gentlemen. And I know he's had a couple of injuries and had to miss some time. I get all of that. But he is playing very, very good football as of late. Again, he's going to be a grinder. In the run game, that. That's what he does. He's going to be a mauler. His pass protection has come along. Look, he's the leader in the locker room. I know we don't hear a lot from him as far as interviews and stuff like that. You don't hear a ton from him, but he's the old veteran, the wily veteran, and he's playing some really good football. And again, in the last 4 weeks, Isaac Seumalo has not allowed a single pressure. That's basically a month of football with no pressures being allowed by him. That's outstanding stuff. Now, Mason McCormick, maybe the number 2 guy on Big B's list as far as the guy that he gets on. Again, I like Mason McCormick because his motor is insane, and he's that guy that you want on your football team because he's going to hit somebody or block somebody just after the whistle. That's what him and Zack Frazier have in common. Like, just after the whistle, they're going to nudge you, they're going to push you, they're going to bump you. And Mason McCormick is going to talk trash to you. I love it. I love his enthusiasm. It seems like he enjoys playing football. Now, his technique is still all over the place, and it's got to get better. But he is getting better. He's getting better, people. That's the whole thing. You just want to start seeing signs. And the more football he plays, you think about where he came from. A FCS school to starting in the National Football League as a rookie. He did that. That's a big jump. And he was able to do that. And he's getting better. He's getting better. I mean, you don't look at Mason McCormick and just think, man, this guy stinks. Last year, you probably could have said that. You can't say that this year. And that's all we're asking for. That's what we're looking for. He's been rock solid in the run game, in the last 4 weeks. But another thing, and I'm going off the last 4 weeks because that's a good metric, 6 pressures in the last 4 weeks. Now, you might say, well, that's 6 pressures. I didn't say sacks. I just said pressures. And that's in entire football games. That's 4 weeks. 6 pressures is not that many, ladies and gentlemen. It's just not. It's not. And he's doing a really good job. Zack Frazier, still solid in the run game. I would be willing to give you this, that Zack Frazier hasn't played as good as last year. I'll give you that. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's been as good, but that doesn't mean bad. And I think sometimes when people hear something on the internet, if you don't say that somebody's been outstanding, then all of a sudden it's, well, you're saying they're not any good. I didn't say that. I didn't say he wasn't any good. I didn't say he had a second-year slump. I didn't say he was bad. I'm just saying it hasn't been as good as last year. And that's a fair statement. It's also okay to say, but it also doesn't mean that he's playing bad. Perfect example, 2 pressures over the last 4 weeks. Again, not a lot of pressures. Getting better. And I would be willing to say that Zack Frazier is getting better because the beginning of the year didn't start off great for him. But he is getting better. And then finally, Troy Fautanu. Look, seems to get better each week. You got to remember, this is his rookie year. Now, I know he was in meetings as much as he could be last year, but this is his rookie season. He played 55 snaps last year. Okay. So, and basically one football game and then got hurt and was hurt all of training camp. You got to remember that. He missed training camp last year as well. And then also missed, I don't know, 85% of the season too. So there's that. More than that, like 95% of the season. So this is his rookie year. He's getting better each and every week. He's really good in the run game. I think he's still getting used to the speed of the game. Like I mentioned, he's a rookie. I still think he's getting used to all that. Sometimes it just takes a while, but he's not playing bad either. And we know that he's a technician at right tackle. So his technique is there. Does it slip up from time to time? Is it as consistent as you would want it to be? No. But Troy Fautanu, we shouldn't worry about that guy. As long as he can stay healthy, we found us one. So the Steelers line is getting better. Like I mentioned, is it spectacular? No. But sometimes the coaching staff has to help them, put them in the right position, do what they do best, and allow them to block going forward, not constantly side to side, do a lot of gap blocking, stuff that they do well. Love what they've done, adding Spencer Anderson and Darnell Washington to big boy football. When the Steelers want to run the ball, they can go big boy football, 12 personnel. I love it. They got to continue to do it. But if we're just talking about offensive line play, people, you can see that they have gotten better. And that's all we've asked for. That's all we have asked for. So let's go to the poll question. I like what this offensive line has done, ladies and gentlemen. Is it perfect? No, but it's getting better. Poll 1. What do you think is the most crucial factor for the Steelers' offensive line improving their performance this season? Is it A, individual player development, B, chemistry and teamwork, C, coaching strategies, or D, health and injury management. Be curious to see what most of you guys, or what all of you guys have to say on this one. Make sure you put a 1 in front of your answer so we know exactly what poll question you are answering. Let's move on. Oh, the defense. That was a step back against the Chicago Bears. I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, they gave up 31 points to a Bears team that shouldn't be scoring 31 points against you. Just put it that way. I'm not saying the Bears are a terrible offense, but it's not 31 points worthy. Steelers did that. They were back to the basic schematics against the Bears. A lot of spot drop, cover 3 stuff that you see high schools run because it's easy. Not even a lot of the cover 2. And I get it. The Steelers didn't want to be vulnerable because the Bears come out in 12 personnel. They run the football. So I understand it. And the Bears are the number 2 rushing offense in the National Football League. So I totally understand. But when you get them in passing situations, you can't go back to basics. The Steelers took a huge step back as far as schematics and what they were doing. Um, I, you know, to to do what they did. I mean, look, the Steelers took away the run. Let's start there. I know there was a drive that the Bears got loose running the football. That's true, but that's the NFL. Guys get paid on the other team too. But they held a team that was second in the National Football League, averaging 146 a game. You held them to 99. And the 3 games previous to Pittsburgh, they were averaging 196. So the Steelers did a good job for the most part stopping the run against the Chicago Bears, minus that one drive and a few runs here or there. They did a good job. They did a good job. But the problem is that the middle of the field was so wide open. And that's going to happen when you have these cover 3 spot drops. They're doing play action. It was just nauseating. Like, where was the cover 2? Where was the cover 6? It just, none of that stuff existed. I'm like, what are we doing? We did a ton of that stuff, to stop some of these teams the previous 3 weeks. There was just no innovation. It was back to basic football, you know? And the most basic thing, everybody's seen it. Everybody's seen it online. Heck, we saw it during the game. The Steelers in nickel, 3rd and 2 from the 2-yard line, matching up personnel. And I'm like, it doesn't matter that they went 11 personnel. I get it. They only have 1 tight end and they have 3 wide receivers out there. It's the 2-yard line. 2-yard. You got to come up with something different, man. You can't just have 2 down linemen. Because all they're going to do is double team those 2 guys, and it's a walk to a touchdown. Well, what do you think they did? To double team Cam Hayward, double team Keanu Benton. Both of those guys were on skates. One of the easier touchdowns that you'll ever see, people. I mean, keep a D lineman in the game. If anything, you want to do something, take out a linebacker or take out a DB, put another safety in, do something. But you can't do that. And that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about as far as the Steelers are concerned. It just got back to basics. It just got back to basics. It's like, we're doing innovative stuff. We're changing. We're being, deceptive. We're changing coverages. We're mixing things up. Oh, we've done too much. We got to go back. And when you do that, especially against a innovative play caller like Ben Johnson, it caused problems. There was just not enough down and distance awareness for the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. I just wasn't sure from play in to play out where they were going to be, what they were doing. The one thing I did see is that, James Pierre did get the start over Darius Slay. Now, we did see that. And I was surprised because, remember, you heard what Mike Tomlin said, but he would have been a fool to put Slay back in, especially the way that Pierre had been playing. And he needs to leave it like this. Pierre, he got beat a couple times, but again, I say this all the time. They pay guys on the other side. Not to mention, wide receivers get paid more money than cornerbacks. Why? Because they're playmakers. So they're going to get paid more because their job is to make plays. And I'm not saying that cornerback's job is not to. I'm just saying wide receivers get paid more for a reason. So it's cornerback's job is tough in this league. Can't touch anybody. If you breathe on somebody, it's a penalty. It's a tough job. Pierre's been playing really good, but this was a step back. Not enough guys just like who jumped off the screen this past week. Like nobody, you didn't think, man, that guy's playing great. No, you didn't think anything about that on a defense. The previous weeks, you could pinpoint and point to somebody that was playing really good football. You couldn't do that this week. And it was basically because we're just in this same old defense. We're not moving anything around. Patrick Queen basically came out and said it. He said he thought our schematics were bad. Somebody asked him that question, and maybe he let it slip. That he said the schematics. I'm like, look, man, that's a sign. That's a sign. Players are starting to get embarrassed. And they're like, look, it's not us. It's the schematics and what we're doing. And that's a problem. When the players are starting to tell the media that, hey, man, yeah, we got to make more plays, but did you see the position that they were putting us in? Did you see the schematics that we were doing? There's only so much we can do. That's not a good sign in Pittsburgh. Just not a good sign. Let's go to the poll question, people. Not a great sign in Pittsburgh, PA with that defense. Poll question number 2. Who do you think is the most crucial factor, or excuse me, what do you think is the most crucial factor for the Steelers' offensive line improving their performance? And it should be defense, improving their performance. So is it individual player development, chemistry and teamwork, coaching strategies, health and injury management? So let's move on. And remember, put a number 2 in front of your answer so we know exactly what poll question that you are answering. Moving on. This is the halftime, people. Look, again, I want to thank everybody for being in here and all the support that you guys have given Steelers Almighty. We appreciate you, man. Memberships are still available. We are having a lot of, I take that back. We didn't necessarily have a ton of fun in the watch party this past week if you're a Hall of Fame member, but we have fun together as a group because we built a family, man. It is a community, and we have absolutely built just a family as far as the watch parties are concerned. So if you want to be a part of that, you know how to do that. Memberships are available. The watch party at the Hall of Fame level, you can come watch every Steeler game. We stream it, and we can talk together. So I guess we don't necessarily stream it. We just talk about it together. We watch the game together. Also, remember, Steelers.com or Steelers Almighty shop.com, I should say. Come and get some merch, man. We got a lot of stuff. We got new hoodies over there you guys are absolutely going to love. We got hoodies, beanies. The weather has turned. Go and get yourself some stuff, some good merch at SteelersAlmightyShop.com. Make sure you go check that out. Glasses, T-shirts, hats, hoodies, beanies, all of that good stuff is over there, man. Make sure you guys go and check it out. We appreciate your support. Let's move on. Underdog just dropped prediction markets, spreads, totals, and team outcomes. And the best part, you can combine them with player picks for bigger multipliers. Sign up today with code Pittsburgh and make a $5 fantasy entry to get $100 in fantasy bonus entries. Prediction markets are live in 25 states, including Texas, California, and Florida. And Underdog is available in over 40 states. Prediction markets, player picks, all on Underdog. Okay. So the Arthur Smith experiment, I'm sorry, but it's over. There was a lot of people out there that didn't like Arthur Smith to begin with. I gave him the benefit of the doubt because you know me, I'm pretty much an optimist, and I live in reality. We can dislike Arthur Smith, but once he got hired, he was going to be the offensive coordinator, whether we liked it or not. and he didn't get fired. And you could have, I mean, we all knew he wasn't going to get fired after 1 year. So he was going to be the offensive coordinator again. So no reason to constantly live in a world where we're saying get rid of him, fire him, when we knew that that wasn't going to happen. Okay, great. But now at this point in time, it's the experiment is over. The reality of the situation is it's not working. So everybody's screaming for Arthur Smith's head at this point in time. You are living in reality, because the reality is if it's not working, we got to move on, and it's time to move on. And look, here's the situation. The offense is just stale. If I see this again, my head might explode when we run jet sweeps with Jonnu Smith. I'm like, huh? We have DK Metcalf. We have Roman Wilson. Now, I know he fumbled on one. Don't get me started. We've got him. We've got Calvin Austin. Why are we running jet sweeps again with Jonnu Smith? So Jonnu Smith can get his touches because you won't throw him the football in the middle of the field? Yeah, I'm going to guess Jonnu wants to just catch some passes and not run jet sweeps. But that's just me. That's just me. But bottom line is the offense has just grown stale. Look, we don't do anything over the middle of the field. Now, the big question is that Mike Tomlin. We have literally heard Mike Tomlin say he doesn't like using the middle of the field because he's scared of turnovers. He said that. That's not hyperbole. That's not something that it was an internet rumor and people just ran with it. Mike Tomlin said it in a press conference. Those are words that came out of his mouth. Well, and it's not just this offensive coordinator. It was the previous one and the one before that. It's like, guys, you got to use the middle of the field. I mean, if you're not going to use it and teams know it, they don't even, I mean, we had guys in this Bears game, guys are running in the middle of the field open. The Bears didn't even think about covering them because they're like, they're not going to throw it there. And we didn't. We didn't. It's just time, man. The short passing game look, my thing is that DK Metcalf has basically been neutralized. And he's been neutralized by this offense. I keep screaming, throw the ball to DK, get it to him. Well, on these short little stop routes and 2-yard hitch routes and 2-yard slant routes, DK Metcalf is an intermediate to deep ball type of a guy. You get him in space, but you throw it to him on the run, 10, 12 yards down the field or further. Now, some will say, well, come on, B, they're throwing, those go balls to him. Yes, they are down the sideline, outside the numbers. Those are the only go balls. What about a post? We ever do that? What about a sail route or a flag? What about anything like that? Or, you know how big DK Metcalf is? Why don't you just let him run a dig route? A 12-yard dig route behind the linebackers in front of the safety. Why don't you let him do that? Hell, a safety might bounce off of him, and he may be able to spin off of that and run another 15 yards. Who knows? But DK has basically been eliminated. Last game, 5 catches for 22 yards for a guy that you're paying $30 million for because you live in your fears. I'm sorry. It's unacceptable. And at this point, you can't blame DK Metcalf. Like, it would be one thing to say, well, he just can't get open. And I'm not saying DK has great separation because he doesn't. He doesn't. But there's times he's running free. We just don't throw him the ball. We don't throw him the football. And it's not just Mason Rudolph. Aaron Rodgers, same thing. Don't throw him the football. Like, it's almost like we're not seeing the field. And I think it's Arthur Smith. That's that's my whole thing, is that he's not even close. DK's not even close to the number of targets that we should be targeting him. And I get that Arthur Smith wants to spread the football around. I totally understand that. But it seems like there's no plan, like game by game. Remember, I was calling for Pat Freiermuth to be traded earlier in the year. And the reason that I was calling for it was because they didn't use him. And my thought was, he's still a good tight end. If we're not going to use him, go get better somewhere else. Well, now it's totally flipped. They'll use Pat Fryermuth gingerly, but now they won't throw the ball to Jonnu Smith. It's like, well, we'll get Jonnu some touches. We'll just hand it to him. What? I just didn't understand it. I still don't understand it. And I get that Darnell Washington has become a huge part of the offense, and he should. He's doing well. But that doesn't mean that other guys can't get involved. The middle of the field has to be used. I just look. It's Arthur Smith. It's Arthur Smith. I just don't trust him. It's not even about trust because I don't have to trust him. It's about him not utilizing what we have to the best of their ability. And look, anybody that knows Arthur Smith, he's a headstrong dude, and he wants to do things his way. And in my opinion, his way is getting in the way of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's why I say the experiment's over. Because what you're doing and what your philosophy necessarily is, it doesn't work. At least it's not going to work on the Pittsburgh Steelers based on the personnel. It's not going to work. We got to do something different. I don't like it. It's time to move on, people. It's time to move on from that. Experiment's over. Let's go to the poll. Let's go to that poll. Poll number 3. What do you believe is the primary reason for the Steelers' struggling offense? A, outdated offensive schemes by Arthur Smith. B, Mike Tomlin's strategic decisions. C, lack of utilization of key players like DK. Or D, insufficient talent on the roster. I get it. No wide receiver too. Totally understand. But there's other ways that you can make this offense go. The Steelers just aren't doing that. They're not doing that. Let's move on. So, okay. So I went on a rant after the Chicago Bears game. As you all know, I tend to do because I was frustrated. And I'm going to tell you how I feel, what good, bad, or indifferent. You're always going to get what I feel from me. I don't pull punches. I don't hold things back. Life is way too short for that, and I'm just not going to do it. And I said, I'm done with Mike Tomlin. I've finally gotten to a place to where I'm like, he won't change because let me preface this. I was okay with if the Steelers wanted to move on from Mike Tomlin in 2023, in 2024. I was okay if the Steelers wanted to do that. But I always had a big caveat and said, I'm fine with Mike Tomlin because as long as he changes, if he changes his philosophy on how to win football games and bringing in people to be offense and defensive coordinators, and he gets out of the way, I am fine with Mike Tomlin being the head coach because from a motivational standpoint, he's really good. He is good. But he's not going to do that. He's just not going to. He won't change. He won't bring in headstrong people that understand things. And so if he won't change, then why does he need to be here? Because the Steelers aren't going to get any better. And that's how I feel. But the real culprit behind all of this, behind all of it, and is more responsible than Mike Tomlin could ever dream, is Art Rooney II. Art Rooney II, and here's why. And I'll break it down for you. First of all, he's in charge. He is in charge of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is the principal owner. He's the minority shareholder. It is him. Everything, he is the last person that needs to make a decision. It is him. This is where, quote unquote, the buck stops with. Okay. So as long as he is in charge of the team, then he is the one who has to make changes for the team to change. So we can be mad at Mike Tomlin, and I hear so many people, I hate Mike Tomlin. My mediocre Mike, he stinks, and he's terrible. He's a horrible coach. Okay. then why not the same venom for Art Rooney II? Like, Mike Tomlin isn't going to fire himself. You know what I'm saying? What is he going to, hey, you know what? I'm doing a bad job. I'm fired. He's not going to fire himself. Mike Tomlin also didn't give himself an extension. Like, he didn't walk into Art Rooney II's office and say, you know what? I want $15 million a year for 3 more years, and I want a no trade clause. Boom, sign it. Hurry up and sign it. Okay, it's done. Do you think that happened? Now, maybe it did. I don't know. But I would be willing to bet that that is not what happened. So this is where we are. All the venom that Mike Tomlin takes, and I'm not even trying to tell you that you shouldn't have it. Because if you don't want him to be your head coach anymore because of what's going on, you have a right to express that. The only thing that I would say is you need to have even more venom for Art Rooney II. Otherwise, you're being disingenuous. Because you're mad at the coach for being mediocre? What if he was always mediocre? I mean, that's what people nickname him, Mediocre Mike. Well, what if he's always been that and he won't be fired? Is that Mike Tomlin's fault that he's mediocre? I mean, it's gotten him this far. He's got him to a place to where he's been the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers for 19 years. It's gotten him this far. So whatever he's doing is pretty good in his eyes. It's the owner who has to now say, what you're doing is not good enough. You either change or you're gone. Period. End of story. And that's my philosophy. And I know that the Rooneys, they stick with coaches. They stuck with Noel in his early years when they struggled, even later on when they struggled, till finally they had to tell him. Dan Rooney had to say, I'm sorry, coach, enough is enough. And that happened. Also, now Bill Cowher didn't get fired, but we've seen other coaches get moved on. I mean, Bill Belichick, they moved on from Bill Belichick. And I know what people will say. Well, he won 6 titles. Well, 6 titles? Shouldn't that be enough to stay as long as you want? Well, everybody knew it was only because of him and Tom Brady built him. Okay. Well, if Tom Brady built him, and I'm not saying that he did or didn't, because I don't even want to get into that. But if he did, when he left, they moved on from him, right? Ben Roethlisberger. People say that all the time. If it wasn't for Big Ben, Mike Tomlin wouldn't be anything. Well, he's gone. Why haven't we moved on? That is my point. And who's responsible? That is a Art Rooney II decision. And nobody else. So I get that we have this venom for Mike Tomlin. I get that we can't stand him and we don't want him to be the head coach, and he's never been a good head coach, and he won a Super Bowl because of Bill Cowher's players and all the stuff that people say about Mike Tomlin. I don't agree with even half of it, but you know what? If all of it is true, if everything that people say about him is true, then why don't we hear all that about Art Rooney II? Because he's the one who's responsible. Look, you can be as mad as you want at Mike Tomlin for being a mediocre football coach. But just like you, if you, me, or anybody else is just mediocre at our job, we're not going to fire ourselves from our job. We're going to keep working. We may even try to keep getting better, but we're not going to fire ourselves. So Mike Tomlin's not going to fire himself. And people thinking, well, we can trade Mike Tomlin, that's a pipe dream. And for people that say, well, just trade him for draft picks. First off, the only people that are going to be wanting to trade him are like a team like the Giants, or Tennessee, somebody like that. Their teams aren't good. So while I know you need a good head coach, and trust me, Mike Tomlin, if he were to be fired, whether we think he's good or not, Mike Tomlin would have a job before they got his desk cleaned out. Before he even walked back to his office from Art Rooney II's office, he would have another job somewhere. That's just reality. Whether we think he's good or not, somebody does. But if that's the case, then what I just don't understand why not the vitriol for Art Rooney II. It's his responsibility to make sure that the football team, the ultimate responsibility, is moving in the right direction. It's on him. Now, does he entrust the general manager and the coach to do it? He sure does. And when they're not, you got to make the decision. And I don't want to hear from these ignorant people, and I'll just call them ignorant people because that's what they are. Oh, he's a DEI hire, and it's going to be going against the Rooney rule. First of all, the Rooney rule is only to get interviews. It has nothing to do with hiring somebody. It's only to get interviews. So that's number one. And I won't even go into the rest because I'll get crazy comments in the comments section. I don't even want to deal with it. To be honest with you, I don't. But the bottom line is, Art Rooney II is the problem. Mike Tomlin is what he is, but he can be removed. He can absolutely be removed, but somebody's got to do it. And unless he's willing to do it, what are we doing? Like, at some point, you got to stop saying, for instance, remember the Bengals with Marvin Lewis? While we used to laugh at Mike Brown for keeping Marvin Lewis around all those years. Remember, Steeler fans, we just laughed at him and like, this guy, that franchise, they're insane. Like, this guy, he doesn't win playoff games. Guess who doesn't win playoff games? He's only been to the playoffs 4 times in 17 years. Now, don't get me wrong. He had to clean up a mess because the Bengals were god-awful when he got there. But 17 years, 4 playoff appearances and no wins? At what point do you say the guy's got to go? And he probably should have been let go 4 years earlier. And y'all, I know you all remember, we used to laugh and make fun of them. And now we're in the same situation because Art Rooney II won't do his job. And if he doesn't want to fire Mike Tomlin because he believes that Mike Tomlin is a good motivator and guys want to play for him, then he needs to go to Mike Tomlin and say, look, here's the situation, my man. We want to keep you as the head coach because of the other aspects that you bring. But you are going to go find a young up-and-coming offensive coordinator and allow him to have full control of the offense. And you're also going to go find a defensive coordinator that while you can work together with him, you're going to have him. He is going to be in charge of calling plays, putting in his system. That's what's going to happen. We need you more as a CEO role. And there are plenty of those in the National Football League, people. So let's not act like they're not. Plenty of those roles. Yes, you can have a little bit of input from here and there from time to time. The perfect example of a CEO role would be John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh was a special teams guy. He's not running the offense. He's not running the defense. So there are plenty of those walking around in the National Football League. Mike Tomlin could do that, but he's got to be willing to get out of the way. And at this point, nobody's made him get out of the way. And until the owner stands up and says enough is enough, this is where we are. You need to shift all the venom that you have for Mike Tomlin and start pointing a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it to Art Rooney II, because this is a problem that he has created. He has allowed this to go on. The mediocrity. I say it all the time. I think I said it in the very first video that we made when we started this channel last year, April of 2024. Mediocrity is the death of your franchise. I say it. I mean it. Mediocrity is the death. I would rather be bad, because when you're bad, the NFL has parameters in place to give you to where you can get good again. They have that. You get higher draft picks so you can try to get good. They do that for you. But the Steelers are mired in mediocrity. So they never have a high draft pick. They are never bad enough to get a high draft pick, but they're never winning. They're never winning. We're just marred in mediocrity. It doesn't get better, and it's Art Rooney II's fault. I just, does Mike Tomlin have a big hand in this? Of course he does. He's a football coach, and he controls the franchise. People try to act like Mike Tomlin doesn't have any control over the players that get put on the football team. Like somebody told me that Mike Tomlin was a puppet and he had no control over anything. And I said, do you know how stupid you sound? You're telling me that they're willing to pay a puppet $15 million a year and give him a no trade clause and just say, hey, we're just going to make you stay here. You think, I mean, come on, stop it. You know what a puppet coach is? How about the last 30 years of coaches for the Dallas Cowboys, minus 3 years that Bill Parcells was there? Those are puppet head coaches. That's what a puppet head coach looks like. When the owner / manager is in charge. That's what it looks like. Not what Mike Tomlin is. That's not a puppet. Mike Tomlin has a ton of power. He's just not yielding it right. It's just not running the right way. And to me, Art Rooney II is the most to blame because he won't stop it. That's just me, people. So let's get to the poll. Poll 4. What is the most urgent change the Steelers need to make to improve their performance? A, change in ownership. B, firing Mike Tomlin. C, major roster changes. Or D, a shift in coaching strategy. No wrong answers in this one, people. Make sure you put a 4 in front of your answer so we know exactly what poll question you are answering. So look, I know I went on a rant about Art Rooney II, but that's what I believe. Again, it's not that you're wrong about wanting Mike Tomlin not to be the head coach anymore. And, you can feel how you want to feel. But unless you're going to blame the person that's really in charge and that could change it, why only stop at the second person? That would be like being mad at the company at whatever company, ABC company, and you know who the CEO is and you have access and they won't make changes. So you're going to be mad at the vice president because the CEO won't make the proper change. That's crazy. Why do it for a football team? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Somebody can make the changes that need to be made, but they won't do it. They haven't done it. So instead, you'll be mad at the second person in charge who's not going to fire himself. To me, that doesn't make sense. But it is what it is, man. Big game. Got to win this week. Got to win. Bills are coming to town. There's a path to winning. It's going to be tough, but there is a path to winning. We got to make sure we do it, man. So that's all I got for you today. I appreciate everybody being in here. As always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in the comments, and always hit that notification bell. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, aloha.